Good morning, students. As we were doing chapter number 3, which is classification of elements and periodicity in properties, today we will study about the classifications of metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. So, as we have already done in this chapter, how the elements are classified in S, P, D, and F block. So, the elements can also be classified on the basis of their properties, which is metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. So, metals comprise more than 78% of all the known elements. That means, if we'll see the periodic table, we'll find that most of the elements are metals, like the S block is of metals, the P block is, well, some of them are metals and non-metals. D block is all metals and F block is also metals. So most of the elements in the periodic table are metals, and metals are specially, they appear on the left hand side of the periodic table. So on the left hand side, all the elements are metals. So they have metals have some general properties. That means they are having a high melting and boiling point, and they are solid at room temperature. Exception is there. So metals are solid at room temperature. At room temperature, but exception is always there. So in the chemistry, you will always study about exceptions. So there will be rules, but there will be some exceptions also. So gallium and cesium are two metals which have a very low, these two have a very low melting point. That means they can even melt at our hand also. And then again, metals are solid at room temperature, but mercury is an exception. So like these are some metals which are exceptions. So all the metals are malleable. That means they can be flattened into thin sheets, and metals are also ductile, that can be drawn into wires, and they have bright luster. Now on the other hand, of the right hand side of the table, we'll find that they are non-metals, and the non-metals usually have a very low melting and boiling point. Okay, so non-metals have low melting and boiling point and boiling point. Now this also has exception, boron and carbon, exception, boron and carbon. Okay, so they are the exceptions. So the only liquid nonmetal is bromine. So generally nonmetals are, all of them are gaseous, but bromine is liquid. So most of the metals are brittle, non-metals are brittle, and they are not malleable nor ductile. Okay, so if you see the periodic table, you'll see that we move down the group, so the metallic character increases, and when we move from left to right like this, the non-metallic character increases in the periodic table. So in these two things, like metals and non-metals, there are some characters, like you will see a zigzag line. So they are the elements which have a different behavior. Like the elements are like silicon, then it's germanium, and then arsenic, antimony. So these elements show the properties of both metals and non-metals. So since they show property of both metal and non-metal, so they are called as metalloids. So they are called as metalloids or semi-metals. Okay, so this. So now we have many advantages of the long form of periodic table. That means they help in the classification of the elements on the more fundamental property, which is atomic number. And since the classification is based on the atomic number, so it does not make anything wrong, and the position of the placing of isotope is also justified fully. Then also the position of element in the periodic table is governed by the electronic configuration. That's why it determines the property very well. It is easy to remember for us. Also, the systematic grouping of the element into the 4 blocks SPDF has made the study of the element very simple. Okay, so there were some anomalies in the periodic table which also resolves. Example, the argon precedes potassium because argon has the atomic number 18 and potassium has 19. And even the lanthanide and actinide have their property different from the other group. That's why they are placed somewhere else. Now, with this, we also have some defects. So, defects are those that the position of hydrogen is still not settled, and the lanthanides and actinoids do not have their specific accommodation in the main periodic table. Okay, so now with this we will do some questions which are from the NCERT book, like question number 1. So yes, in this what would be the IUPAC name and symbol for the element having atomic number 120? So according to this IUPAC, the solution would be the root for 1, then 2 and 0 is un for 1, and for 2 it's bi, and for 0 it's nil. So the name would be un bi nil, and then you will be adding IUM to unbi nilium, and the symbol will be UBN. Okay, so next question, one more question we'll try. Okay, so question is, how would you justify the presence of 18 elements in 5th period of the periodic table? So 18 elements in 5th period. So we know that in the 5th period there are 18 elements of the periodic table, and we have to justify that there should be 18 elements or some other elements should be there. So as we all know that the 5th period involves the filling of the 5th shell. Okay, so shell means n equals to 5. So this period will have 4d, 5s and 5p as in orbitals. So the total number of the available orbital will be 9, because when we count till the 9, if we count it, so they have 9 orbitals, and therefore the maximum number of the electron that could accommodate in this will be 18, and thus the 5th period contains 18 elements. Okay, so let's start with the other topic, which is the causes of the periodicity. What are the causes behind these periodicity? That means there is a repetition after some time, some values repetition is there. So what is the cause of this periodicity? So the periodicity means the reoccurrence of similar property. So this is the reoccurrence. That means the property will reappear. Reoccurrence of similar properties of the elements after certain regular intervals when they are arranged in the order of increasing atomic number. Okay, so this is the reoccurrence of similar properties of the element after a certain regular interval when they are arranged in the order of increasing atomic number. So this is the periodicity. Now we know that the classification of element in these certain things are based upon the similarities in certain certain places. So that's why certain elements exhibit similar properties, and that's why the similar properties recur at regular intervals of atomic numbers. So we know that the atom consists of a nucleus which is surrounded by an electron. In ordinary chemical reactions, the nuclei of the atom do not undergo any change, and therefore it is the distribution of the electrons in the various shells of the atoms that determines the physical and the chemical properties of the elements. So it has been found that the properties of the atom do not depend much on the arrangement of the electrons in the inner shells. So, primarily the arrangement of the electrons in the outermost shell, which is called as a valence shell. So, valence shell plays an important role in this. So, valence shell determines the property. It determines the properties of an atom, because the inner shells, the electrons will not be able to move anywhere. So the valence shell will be having the electrons, so it determines the properties of atom. Example, the electronic configuration of the atom of the metal groups, alkali metal groups. We know that they all have one electron in the s orbital, like for the case of lithium, then sodium, then potassium and rubidium, then cesium and francium. Okay, so lithium atomic number 3, sodium is 11, potassium is 19, rubidium is 37, and cesium is 55, francium is 87. So the configuration of the lithium would be 1s2, 2s1. For sodium it would be 1s2, 2s2 and 2p6 and 3s1. For potassium it would be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2 and 3p6 and 4s1. So here we can see that 2s1, then 3s1 and 4s1. So they all are having one electron in their outermost shell, or we can also say valence shell. About rubidium, it's 1s2, 2s2. So all these will be same: 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, then 4s2, then 4p6 and 5s1, again 5s1. And if you take a look of these also, it would be same at the last. It would be 6s1 at last, and it would be 7s1 at the last. So all of these elements, alkali metals, are having one electron in their valence shell. So now, because n is the principal quantum number, so that's why all these elements of non-metals of the halogen family, they just have one electron missing in the outermost shell, which is the p shell. They all have this p orbital missing with one electron. So that's why they will always try to gain that one electron, and then they will react with the metals. So all these things are based upon the configuration, and because of all these a lot of things happens, like the numerous physical properties of the elements such as melting point, boiling point, enthalpy of fusion. These show periodic variation, but these are indirectly related to the electronic configuration, but somehow they are related to the configuration also. But there are some properties such as valency, atomic size, ionization enthalpy. So these show a direct connection. Okay, they are directly linked with the electronic configuration. So we will be discussing about some of those properties, and they show some periodic trends. So the first trend will be about the atomic radius. Now atomic radius is the radius, like atomic radius is if it is an atom, so the center point of the atom the distance from the center to the end of the atom. It's called as atomic radius. So if we'll take it like this, so this distance is called as the atomic radius of an atom. Atomic radius. Okay, so that means atom is a spherical, and the spherical size is given by the radius of a sphere. So the distance from the center of the nucleus to the outermost shell, of electrons. Okay, so this is called as the atomic radius. Now the atomic radius has a size. The size of an atom is approximately, the size of an atom is approximately 1.2 angstrom. This, or it can be also written like 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 9 meter in radius. It's very small. Okay, so according to this, according to the some probability pictures of the electron, the atom does not have a well defined boundaries, but there are some probabilities finding the electron is never zero, even the large distance from the nucleus. So it is not possible to isolate an atom to measure its radius, but they just assume it. So therefore the size of an atom may change in going from one set of the environment to the another. Also, they mean that the distance of the closest approach of one atom to the another atom in a given bonding situation. So that's how we count the atomic radius. Now atomic radius may be assigned by different names. Like it is also called as a they have different names of this. Like we can also call it as a covalent radius, or even we can call it as a metallic radius, the radius of a metallic radius. Okay, so the covalent radius is what? It is 1/2 of the distance between the nuclei of two covalently bond atoms. Now if we'll see that there are two atoms which will form a covalent bond. Okay, the covalent bond is generally formed between the hydrogen atom, the oxygen atom, and so on. So assume it's a hydrogen atom, a covalent bond between hydrogen atom. Okay, so now the distance from this to this. Okay, so this distance, like this distance, this is the distance of between these two atomic radii. So the distance from one bond to the another bond, this is called as the covalent radius. And this distance from one nuclei to the other nuclei of the atom, this is called as the internuclear distance. All right, so it has a formula which is the R covalent equals to the internuclear distance between two bonded atoms upon 2. So that means, example, if we have atomic radius of hydrogen is 74, it would be upon 2, 37 picometer. Okay, so it is a distance between the center of the nucleus of an atom and the mean position of the shared pair of electron of the bonded atoms. Now we move to the metallic radius. So metallic radius is 1/2 of the internuclear distance. Okay, so it is a 1/2 of the internuclear distance between the two neighboring atoms of a metal. So in the metal there are sometimes ionic bonds, so the distance between the metallic, it would be maybe more, so the distance between the half, whatever the distance between is, so we will do the half of this. So that is the metallic distance radius. Okay, so now after this we come to the next topic, which is variations of atomic radii in the periodic table. So there are some variation of atomic radii in the periodic table. Okay, so the following the periodic trends in the atomic radii have been observed, like they are little more. Number one is variation in period, variation in a period. So there are some variations in a period, and there will be also variation in groups. So first we'll talk about the variation period. The atomic radii decreases when we move in the period, like period is from left to right is the period. Okay, so the atomic radii decreases with the increase in atomic number when we move from left to right. So that's how the period moves from left to right. Okay, so there is a little the atomic radii decreases. Okay, so why do it decrease? Because when we move from left to right, like from left to right, we have lithium, then we have beryllium, then we have boron. You can also see the periodic table for the reference. So now then nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine and neon. So we know that here the this is the nucleus and this is the shell, first and second shell. So there will be one electron here and two here. So in this shell, now for the beryllium the number of shells will be same, but there will be 2 electrons here, and then now there will be 3 electrons here. So like every time the number of electron will be increasing. Okay, 7 and then 8, 9 and 10. So the number of electron will be increasing, like it will be having 4 electron, then 5, then 6, 7, and then it will be having 8 electron in the outermost shell. Okay, and overall it will be this. So because of the attraction of the nuclear force of attraction, what will happen, it will, the nucleus will attract the electron, and the magnitude of the nuclear charge increases 1 by 1 unit each time. So when the electrons are added, they take the place in the same principal shell, which is the second shell. So they all have a same principal shell which have a second shell. Okay, so here what will happen, the electrons in the same shell, they will be attracted by the nucleus. So the increase in the nuclear charge is not neutralized by the extra valence electron. As a result, the electrons are pulled closer to the nucleus by the increased effective nuclear charge, and therefore they cause a decrease in the size of the atom. So that's why the atomic size decreases across the period. Okay, so next is the variation in group. How does the variation happens in the group? Variation in a group. So variation in group is that the atomic radii of elements increases from top to bottom. Okay, in a group. The reason behind this is that when we move down the group from top to bottom, the nuclear charge increases with the increase with the atomic number. And what happens, like we know that the lithium, then sodium, then potassium, then rubidium, then cesium and francium, they all will have one shell increased. So while going from one atom to the another, there is an increase in the principal quantum level. Like it will be having, here the n will be 2, and here the n will be 3, here the n will be 4 and 5 and 6. Okay, so the principal quantum number is increasing, the value of n is increasing each time, because along this, the number of electrons in the outermost shells remain the same and the electrons will be same. So the effect of the increase in the size of the electron cloud is more, and the effect of this increased nuclear charge will what? It will increase the distance of the outermost electrons from the nucleus gradually and increases down the group. It will keep on increasing. So that means the size of the atom goes increasing as we move down the group, because the nucleus will not be able to hold the electron properly. Like it will hold properly, but the attraction will decrease a little. That's why the size will increase, because the number of shells are increasing. So that's the reason of the variation in the periods and in the group. So after this, we move to the ionic radius. After the atomic radius, ionic radius. Okay, so ionic radius means we have when the atom either donate or either gain electron, it become ion. Okay, so ions are formed as a result of the addition or the removal of the electrons from the outermost shell. We all know that. An ion formed by the loss of electron acquires a positive charge. So that means if an atom acquires a positive charge, okay, so that means it will donate the electron. Okay, so it will donate. That means all the metals acquire positive charge and all the metals form cation. And when the elements, or when the atom when the atom gain the electron, then they acquire a negative charge, because when they will gain one negative or two negative or three negative electrons, so definitely they will acquire a negative charge, and when they will lose a negative thing from them, they will acquire a positive charge. Okay, so the effective distance from the center, the effective distance from the center of the nucleus of the ion up to which it has an influence in the ionic bond is called as the ionic bond. That means it is the influence of the to which it has to gain or to lose electrons. So for example, there are some and they have formed an ionic bond. So this ionic radius measures or checks the distance to what it has the influence of that ionic bond. Okay, so it is an internuclear distance, like one atom will form a bond and it will become an ion. So it will be the radius of a cation and the radius of anion, like to which distance they have an influence. Okay, and this it's done by the X-ray studies, that the distance between the nuclei of the positive and the negative ions is in the crystals. So it is like sodium and chlorine. Sodium has a positive charge and chlorine have a negative charge, as sodium forms a cation and chlorine forms an anion. So this is measured by the internuclear distance taken equal to the sum of the radius of the cation and the anion. So this is done like this. Now the study of these ionic radii have led to some important generalization. That means there are two things. That number one is the radius of the cation is always smaller than that of the parent atom. Parent atom means out of which that cation is formed. Like if we have a sodium atom and this sodium atom forms a cation, so the radius of this positive ion will be more than the parent atom. Okay, so cation is formed by the loss of one or more electron, we know that. Or okay, so generally the whole of the outermost shell of electron is removed. If we talk about the sodium, so the one shell will be removed because it will donate the electron, because metal have one all the metals have the outermost shell and they have generally one or two electrons in the outermost shell, and when they lose the electron, their shell is dissolved. So generally the shell is removed. That's why the cation are formed. So cations resulting a smaller size. Okay, so since they will have a smaller size, their radius will be small. Okay, so this is the reason of this. Now next is the radius of the negative ion is always larger than the parent atom. Second is the radius of negative ion, that means an anion, is larger than that of a parent atom. Okay, so it also has the same reason. Since the negative ion is formed by the gain of one or more electrons in their neutral atom, so the number of electron increases. So the number of electron increase, the magnitude of the nuclear charge remains same. So the size of an anion will be larger than that of a parent atom, because the addition of one or more electron would result in the increased repulsion amongst the electrons and a decrease in the effective nuclear charge. For example, formation of chlorine atom. So it's a chlorine atom and it has turned into chlorine ion, which is an anion. Okay, so electrons in this were 17 before and now it has become 18. So nuclear charge was plus 17. Now nuclear charge is plus 17. So the size will little increase. Why it will increase? Because the effective nuclear charge per electron is reduced and the electron cloud is held less tightly now. So by the nucleus, this is the reason behind the increase of the size of the anion or anion. So now there are some variations in the ionic radii in the group also. Okay, so the variation of the ionic radii in the group are that ionic radii is a particular group increase from moving top to bottom. So like we have just read about the atoms, like how when we move from top to the bottom, the atomic radii increases. So same, the ionic radii in a particular group increases when we move from top to bottom, and that is of the alkali metal. So the reason behind, I'll write, it's a variation of ionic radii in a group. Okay, so there's an exception, like in the alkali metal ions like lithium ion, sodium ion and potassium ion, rubidium ion and cesium ion. In this group there is when we move top to bottom, the ionic radii increases. And the reason for the increase is the increase in the principal quantum number. Like the value of n will increase when we move to the each period. So the principal quantum level is increasing and the number of electrons in the valence shell remains same. So the same thing which we have discussed. So there will be the increase in the ionic radii also. So after this comes the variation of the size of an isoelectric series. So the isoelectric series is what we'll just discuss. Isoelectronic series. Okay, so isoelectronic series are the ions of different elements which have same number of electrons, but they differ from one another in the magnitude of the nuclear charge. So a set of these species having the same number of electrons is known as the isoelectronic series. For example, we take oxygen. Okay, oxygen is having the atoms 8 and it will gain 2 electrons and it will have now number of electrons will be 10. And fluorine was having 9 electrons and it will also gain 1 electron, so it will have 10 electrons. So both of these will be having 10 electrons same. So these are called as the isoelectronic series. That means the ions of different elements have same number of electrons but differ from one another in the magnitude of the nuclear charge. So these set of species having the same number of electrons is known as the isoelectronic series. So as we move from one ion to the another, the nuclear charge increases. So the electrons are pulled more and more strongly, and thus the size decreases. So with this we complete our topic. So next we will study about the ionization enthalpy. Thank you.